welcome to Doors and Corners, a sci-fi and fantasy film commentary podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Zach. And every Friday we sit down and watch a science fiction or fantasy film and give our 2 cents on its quality, production, story, and trivia.
We watch the film together, but without sounds or visuals provided to avoid copyright issues. But if you do have access, we encourage you to join us and follow along.
Here, we like to keep things casual, and there may be discussions of spoilers or sensitive materials or language. But we do try and keep things clean and family-friendly. Ultimately, the goal of this podcast is to create the experience of us all sitting down and watching this movie together.
So get ready to hit that play button, because we're about to get started.
Damn doors and corners, I mean, that's where they get you.
Welcome back to Doors and Corners. I'm Brian.
I'm Zach. And tonight we have another special guest with us, my spouse, Rissa.
Hi, my name is Rissa. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I'm very excited to watch this movie.
And she specifically wanted to point out I'm a marriage and family therapist because that is the entire context for why we're jumping ahead, something like 22 movies in the MCU. For tonight we are doing 2025's The Thunderbolts. Not just because it's new on streaming and we're able to do something that's like current, oh my gosh, but also because with this movie's rather pointed focus on mental health, this is one because I've wanted Rissa to come on the show for a while and we missed Joker. This is the movie that she will be able to offer some legitimate expertise and critique of.
It also is nice that it's an MCU film that I kind of enjoyed in the last few years.
Yeah, this is solid.
I thought it was great.
Of course you thought it was great. It has Sebastian Stan.
Absolutely.
No, I do actually. One of my issues with this film is I wish he had more to do. So I'm there with you.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, no, he. Yeah, I love Bucky, and I feel like they have struggled to figure out what to do with him because they have both a good actor and a good character, and it's like he's like the dad almost. They just don't know how to. All right. He's obviously cool. He's experienced. He's old. You know, he's from Steve's era, and other than that, and the fact that he makes other people look incompetent occasionally because he's very competent. He doesn't. Yeah, I liked him in this. He definitely was a step up from Falcon Winter Soldier in this.
Yes.
His character, not his acting.
His appearance in Falcon and Winter Soldier was one of the best parts of that movie because it actually had like meaningful dialogue to it and had that legacy of character relationship.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that as a critique of him. It's just I wish his involvement in that miniseries was a disappointment for me, considering he was second billing. But whatever. We're not here to talk about that. But Thunderbolts is fun. This just hit Disney Plus, so because we didn't want to pay $30 a piece to buy this thing digitally, buy the DVD. Anyways,
digital video device.
Is that what it was? Is that what it stood for?
I don't remember. I was trying to think of kind of a modern equivalent to DVD, given that people don't really buy DVDs anymore.
Yeah, I need to catch up on my physical MCU collection. I have most of the first 2 phases, and I have Endgame, and that's pretty much it. I need to flesh that out. Anyways.
I have it all the way through Spider-Man Far From Home, because I felt like Spider-Man Far From Home kind of acted like an epilogue to Endgame.
But do you have the third one, where all they... Is it?
I do not.
No Way Home?
I thought about getting that one, but if I got No Way Home, then I would also have to get the other MCU movies that I really liked from after that period, which would include things like Shang-Chi. And it's just, I don't want to start going through that, because at that point, I should finish the entire collection.
And then you have to,
I don't want to own the Marvels.
But to say, then you have to spend money on Black Widow.
Ugh. Ugh.
Sorry, anybody who likes that movie. Anyways, why don't you let's?
You're going to hear about it.
Let's get moving on this one. But first, why don't you give us the basics, Zach, the sweet deets, and then Rissa, I'd love to hear before we start kind of a general overview of kind of why this movie really, besides Sebastian Stan, which I understand, and that's a very valid thing, like why this movie really kind of piqued your interest.
Yeah. So what we have here is just Thunderbolts asterisk. That's important is the asterisk. This was released, of course, in 2025, the year of our Lord. PG-13, 2 hours and 7 minutes long. Directed by Jake Schreier. Written by many people, mostly Eric Pearson and Joan Callow. And we have starring Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Lewis Pullman, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Hannah John Kamen, Geraldine, I'm going to slaughter this name, Viswanathan, and honorable mentions to Olga Kurylenko and Wendell Pierce.
Fantastic. So my interest in it kind of comes from just the concept of it's a very good representation of both depression and bipolar disorder. When we were walking into the movie, Zach actually told me, oh, it's going to be dissociative identity disorder. And I was like, oh, really? Because media does that terribly. I'm very excited to see what they do. And then I was watching it and I was like, no, this isn't correct. This is bipolar. And it turns out, and he explained that like in the comics, it was different than in the movie. But I walked into it with a very diagnostic impression of the movie, and I was excited to try to see how well they represented, and I was not disappointed with how they represented depression and bipolar disorder.
Yeah, because the comic book depiction of the Sentry, and I'll go into this a little bit during the movie, they've constantly jumped back and forth on what is his mental condition, named it several different things, including dissociative identity disorder, bipolar disorder, and even, what was the other one? Agoraphobic schizophrenia. So it's just a complicated character.
Okay. Now, he was, I very briefly caught myself up on Sentry before we recorded tonight. Was he written as like a just kind of a really powerful like Superman-esque character from Marvel? Was that true?
So yes and no. It was a little bit of a tribute / even like parody or homage to Superman, but he premiered in 2000. In the year 2000,
new.
It was one of those things. Yeah, so he's quite new.
Okay.
But you'll see some comics out there that look like very old comics with the Sentry in it, but that was part of the point. The character was derived so that you had this guy who was a complete loser sitting at home, fat, gross, and he has these memories of being a superhero. And he slowly goes out and starts recovering some of these memories, only to discover that he is a superhero called the Sentry. And he's also remembering that, oh, I'm back because my arch enemy, the Void, is coming. And it ends up in this whole thing where you find out that the Sentry was actually a founding member of the Avengers, and they have these comics that are like rewrites of the original Avengers adventures with the Sentry added into them. And that he's been present through all of Marvel's history. And then at the end of the comic, you discover that the Void is actually the Sentry himself. And he is both this great superhero and this terrible evil that inhabit the same body. And he was erased from everyone's memory, kind of like Spider-Man in No Way Home, in order to prevent the Sentry's power from ever being sought or unleashed, because that would prevent the Void from coming out, because he was virtually unstoppable, because he is all the powers of Superman, but with none of Superman's weaknesses. His weakness is himself. So it was very much like this is the ultimate hero and the ultimate danger, and the only way to keep him contained is that nobody remembers he exists.
See, that's more interesting than Mrs. Dreyfus making him, in my opinion. But
it is, but it's almost impossible to pull off. I totally understand why they decided to depict him this way.
Yeah, you couldn't do that in one movie and do it justice. You would need to spend time working on that. So, yeah, no.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get started?
Yeah.
Because I think that this movie doesn't actually do justice to its characters or premise, as fun as it is. And so we're going to go into that as well.
Gotcha. Well, as always, we encourage anybody who is listening, if you have the ability to watch this along with us, please cue it on up, because we are going to hit that play button in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. I do
Marvel's
love that they
studios
have
fan
the
here.
actual like return of Michael Giacchino's theme music, because that hasn't been present in several of them.
Yeah.
After Endgame, and
Well,
it does fade out, gets voided. But I love this little. I love the
yeah.
entry so
Well,
much.
I
I'm
love
glad to
that
see it
they went back to comics in the Marvel logo. As much as, you know, all the little, you know, clips from the films was cool as we were building towards Endgame and everything. It was cool to get actual comic pages back in the Marvel logo there.
Yeah,
And those were all like Century
and the
comics,
nice
weren't
little.
they?
Yeah, they were Century Comics. They were actually representing almost all of the characters here.
Okay.
Do you know about this opening scene?
Well, I know
Like
that
the
she did this.
stuff behind it.
I mean,
She did it,
yeah.
but they also edit it in such a way that it doesn't really matter that she did it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I know that
Yeah.
I heard a couple different sources say, yeah, she really pushed hard to do this stunt herself. And she did this, what, like half a dozen times in the course of a day or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I actually really, really admire about this movie is that it uses so many practical effects. And this might be legitimately the most practical effect movie of the MCU. I'm not 100% positive on that, but it's up there.
Okay.
Like, thinking of movies that have so much CG, like even the end of Captain America Winter Soldier and the beginning of Captain America Winter Soldier, tons of CG, even if really well blended, where
Yeah.
this used a lot more practical sets.
Yeah. Well, and it's because this movie, it feels grounded for the most part, as far as just, you know, the way it's shot, the stunt work. You know, it feels like they've taken some, you know, lessons of going back to Winter Soldier. You know, kind of, you know, the John Wick has obviously been a huge influence in cinema in the last 15 years of really getting back to the basics of action and, you know, getting your actors to really get in there and do stunt work. This long take here, the fact that they're not cutting this is like really cool. I love the shadows, by the way. But
Oh yeah, the shadows are great. But this movie really relies on shadows as like a part of its actual thematics.
Well, I do, you know, I know, again, I know that it's all part of her character, but it's weird. Not weird, that's not the right term. Jarring to me, just how, because if you go back and
Casually brutal.
yeah, and I feel like it's odd. Like, if you watched Hawkeye and then immediately jumped into this, I feel like it would be an interesting. You would feel a little out of sync with where she left that show and where she is here.
I could see that. This does follow a little bit more of Black Widow than Hawkeye, because I loved her in Hawkeye. And she was really good in Black Widow, despite Black Widow being like the worst MCU movie, in my opinion. Okay, small spoiler here, actually. I want to talk about this. We have this guinea pig that's introduced here, and it has another
Whom I
scene
love.
later. Yes. How could you not love this guinea pig? This guinea pig was actually supposed to be the subject of the comedic mid-credit scene. And it was essentially supposed to be the guinea pig experiencing its own trauma room as created by the void. Also, I love the addition. You can actually see the void shadows in the back here. That's later revealed in the movie to be when he first had his break.
Oh goodness, she definitely. And nothing against Scarlett, because I know that she actually did put a lot of work in to be physically fit and do everything. But Florence Pugh definitely is better at her stunt work. You can just see that she gives herself into it a little bit more.
She is. I think that she also has a more believable physicality. Like, Scarlett Johansson, very attractive, very like she's slender. She's she had that kind of flexibility to her. She looked like that kind of classic comic book look. Florence Pugh is like shorter and thicker in a way that like is a little bit more believable that she can hit hard.
Yeah.
And that she can do these more physical things.
She has the guinea pig. This is great.
But this right here, that's not CG.
Yeah.
That was a practical effect.
Yeah.
They actually set off those explosives. They shut down the whole city block. They had it in camera. It was an in-camera effect.
Do you know if it's supposed to be that she actually is carrying Natasha's gauntlet things? Like those are from
I
her
think
sister?
those are supposed to be hers. I don't remember if that was explicitly shown.
I think it was. I think when they were showing off their weapons later and they were comparing them, she actually explicitly stated it, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not unfortunately get a chance to rewatch this week. So I saw this in theaters, but I have not seen it since then. So
Yeah, we got to rewatch it. She was very insistent that whenever Sebastian Stan is playing Bucky, it is actually his own hair.
Yes, he grows his hair out, and I need everyone to know that.
I think the only time it's a wig is in the end credit scene because it was a last-minute reshoot, and it's pretty obvious, unfortunately.
okay,
So something I was going to say about this part, just kind of, I thought it was interesting, is like when I'm looking at DeFontaine, I'm wondering like, what's her disorder? Like, what is she? And it's clear it would be a personality disorder. And so I was like, would it be antisocial personality disorder? And throughout the movie, I decided no, because she experiences a lot of fear, and people with antisocial personality disorder don't have anxiety, don't have fear, they don't face that. So it has to be something else than like the cluster B. But I was analyzing her a little bit, especially at the start here, and trying to figure out like, is she experiencing fear in the face of, lying and being deceitful? And yeah, she does get shaken up. So figuring her out was fun.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit. For those who don't know, antisocial personality disorder is what is commonly referred to as a sociopath.
Or a psychopath.
Or a psychopath.
interesting.
But,
So what would you? So you're saying that's not what you think that she has?
No, I did initially, but I don't think so. I feel like it would probably more fall under narcissistic personality disorder, because she does kind of have like, so the core of narcissistic personality disorder is a low self-esteem, and you can kind of see that like she doubts herself throughout it, and so that's kind of something that I would point out. But I also was hoping it was something more exciting than that.
Yeah, because the narcissism comes from the low self-esteem that then overcompensates into the extreme arrogance and need to climb the social ladder or power ladder however they can.
Or grandeur, grandiose behavior, things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and her her big childhood trauma revealed later, right, is that she accidentally led like the people that killed her dad back home. Is that what that was? I wrote. You guys just
I don't think that it was just specifically that she led them there, but that her father was killed by the mafia, and that she somehow might have even been assaulted or otherwise like influenced or raised by mafia types because of it. So that was a thing. Okay. We just had the appearance here of the actor Wendell Pierce, which I just found hilarious. I had seen him in things, but he first came to my attention in the Jack Ryan TV series where he played Admiral Greer. Yeah. A role previously played by James Earl Jones. Yep. In the 90s movies.
Yeah, and then he was also Perry White in Superman this summer.
That's correct. Yep. He played Perry White in the 2025 Superman. He was funny. His script was kind of terrible, but he wrote it well.
They should. I mean, Perry White's always a great secondary character, and as much as they gave Jimmy Olsen some really interesting stuff in that film, I wish they had given Perry White more also. But yeah, it's the only thing I have about Fontaine in this whole movie, and this is very much could be my own, but probably is my own just bias against the actress. She's a great comedian. She's a very talented comedian, but I've never seen her in anything that's not essentially like a parody or like slapsticky or like Seinfeld-esque or Vice, that kind of Veep. Yeah. And so I have trouble ever taking her seriously as like, oh no, she's a serious villain in this serious grounded world, that she always in my mind has a little sheen of like, this is kind of a joke, right? Because it's her. And I said that's definitely based on I've watched all Seinfeld, watched a lot of Veep, and I like her comedy. But I struggle with that watching this film, of ever taking her as though she's an actual grounded threat and not kind of
I've actually had the exact same struggle. But we've moved on to Alexi's apartment here. We just had that hilarious scene of him scrubbing his mouth. He's like washing his teeth with dish soap, which is just
foul.
The parade that he was watching was actually a real Soviet parade from 1981, and they spliced him in there, which I thought was
Forrest Gump style.
really funny. But also, I just want to ask, I feel like I can smell this apartment.
The set dressing is on point here. That you know
Yeah.
you know what that couch feels like, right? It's that
Yep.
cheap leather that's just so worn in. It's like
But also feels really good to sit in. But then
It
if it's
does.
a hot day, it's the worst thing in the world.
Oh yeah, but do not reach your hands down in between any of those cushions. You're gonna get 50 years of Dorito dust.
Ugh. All right.
Oh,
No, but
man.
I look at this set. There's something about the lighting. There's something about the colors. I smell my grandma's apartment,
Aw.
which just smelled like nicotine.
Yeah. Well, they get the lighting
It's the
right too. There's
purveying
just the
scent.
permanent haze in this thing. The walls are
Hmm.
all like just not quite white. He's got the old
Yeah.
TV, which I love. I mean, David
Yeah.
Harbour is just fantastic in general.
I watched a couple of interviews with him promoting this movie, and you kind of got the feeling that he just like, nah, like he's here for the paycheck or something, which he's done with a few movies. But I swear, I've never seen anything with him in it where I'm like, he was terrible, he was bad, I don't like him in that. He is a little bit of an over actor, but he does it so well. I went and recently rewatched the movie Quantum of Solace. Didn't even realize that David Harbour was in that movie. He plays this scummy, greasy CIA field officer.
Why would you randomly
in
go
charge.
watch Quantum of Solace? I have to
I
know now.
was.
Because you're not even a
I
big
didn't
Bond
watch
guy.
like the whole thing. I was just kind of watching the beginning. Oh, it's an incredible action movie. It is a
Yeah.
brilliant action movie. It's just not a good Bond movie. But I was showing Rissa some James Bond movies, and I wanted to see if that's one that I would want to show her.
Okay.
And I was just kind of like some old curiosity because I remember enjoying it a lot.
Okay.
Um,
The soccer team introduced
yeah.
here, the namesake of the team.
Which is something that kind of bothers me. I feel like they shot like two different versions of the movie. One that involved them using the actual Thunderbolts origin, which for those unfamiliar, the character of Thaddeus Ross, who was the president in Captain America 4. He was the several other characters throughout the other Marvel movies when he was played by William Hurt, replaced by Harrison Ford after William Hurt's death.
Because he was Thunderbolt
And-
Ross, right?
He was Thunderbolt Ross. And they were the Thunderbolts because they were the team that he put together in a top secret like black operation.
And see, I feel like
And I don't know.
you could have had that here. I mean, when they filmed this, they William Hurt had already passed, but like you absolutely could have done that, and you could have had Harrison Ford, just say, hey, we need you to shoot a few bits of footage establishing you as the original formation of this team. Like, I mean, you could have done it with Harrison, and these were filming at a similar time frame. So
I think I know why they did it. One, I think that it was because of the poor reception of Captain America: Brave New World. And I also think it's because the director had a very, very distinct rule that he wanted this movie to be accessible to anyone, even somebody who's never seen any of the previous movies or TV shows. They could just walk in and watch it. And they don't, name dropping Thunderbolt Ross. You're just sitting there going, what do I need to know about Thunderbolt Ross? Also, look at this set right now. Does this make you feel like Dune?
let's see. I was immediately thinking this feels like a 1960s era like Bond villain lair.
Oh. Felt like
It-
Dune to me.
I mean, it does have that kind of Dune, like it's kind of a brutalist, a lot of concrete.
Also the brown lighting.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
Dune-y.
Florence Pugh was in both. Okay,
Yeah,
I
Florence Pugh was in Dune.
I both love and hate this whole sequence because
Yeah.
on one hand, the fight itself is pretty good. It's a good Marvel fight, a really good mixture of humor and seriousness. But it introduces some tropes that they're just obnoxious to me. The whole like countdown that they are apparently very aware of, and the switch to turn it off is in the room they're trapped in. It's just one of those like very like cliche trap type situations that it's like designed for them to get out of. but also
I actually sort of disagree with that. Because I was thinking the same thing as I went into rewatching it. Wick flick. He wick flicks so much in this, which is the flicking of the gun to the side in order to get the magazine out, which is a bothersome trope, even though it looks really cool. But so the switch, as you say, to actually turn off the machine, it's not in the room. They can't turn off the incinerator, and they never do. But they have to find
the timer. I'm just sorry. It's not the switch. It's the very convenient. We have exactly this much time thanks to this nice clock on the wall or something like that.
Okay, yeah, they do have that. Absolutely.
I apologize. That's what actually it was. It was just very, I don't know.
Oh, God. I actually really like this trap kind of thing. Like, once they confirm that everybody's in there, then they shut the doors. Yeah. You know? Here we have the appearance of Taskmaster, played by Olga Kurylenko, who was introduced in Black Widow, and this is an absolutely abominable depiction. I mean, she does a good job, but Taskmaster was very different.
Yeah, what would I say? Taking any Taskmaster in the comics versus how he or she is depicted in the comics aside, I was genuinely pissed off at what happened with bringing her in and then the speed at which they just kill her off. That she's in all the promotional material and she goes out in just a way that I just didn't find satisfying at all. I thought it was
present in other parts of the movie. They filmed a whole version of this movie with her present and just edit her out. Because they wanted to kill somebody off. They wanted to make it shocking. And her character they realized that people did not like this version of her, of Taskmaster, because this is the equivalent of Deadpool from Wolverine, where his mouth is sewn shut and he's like this weird skin guy. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. That's the difference between Taskmaster of the comics and cartoons to this version of Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Nobody wants this version of Taskmaster.
They're really copying a lot of previous. I mean, maybe not copying. There's a lot of homage happening to previous action scenes, like right there, the shooting at the shield and up and down, and right there, just like, all right.
Well, yeah, because that's Taskmaster. Taskmaster's entire thing is mimicking other fighting styles.
But I mean, so there's multiple with other people also, just where it's. I mean, and it's not a criticism. There's just a lot of things where it's like, all right, this is. I
like the knife.
Yeah. John's gun handling. Okay. It's weird because it's he's so like I feel like he's trying to act like Winter Soldier when he was just like very advancing, just shooting. But just like I've always had a problem with very competent people who just keep shooting plainly into cover, like they're just like somebody's behind something that obviously is not bulletproof. It is bullet resistant. We'll put it that way, and they just keep advancing and firing because it looks cool on screen when it makes just no sense tactically, and nobody that actually understands ammunition or patience in tactical situations would ever operate that way. But it just looks cool, and it's just a little thing that makes competent people actually act incompetently. For people who understand how soldiers actually operate, it just pisses me off every time I see it. So, like, John Walker is such a weird combination of very competent and also acting like an idiot.
Yeah, that actually sums up his character almost entirely.
Well, I don't mind him being an a-hole. He's great at that.
It never bothered me too much because, like, one of the things that I saw where they were kind of analyzing gun handling is that there would be this, like, they'd be walking their rounds up, right? And so a competent filmmaker would have it so that you have them walking their rounds into a more vulnerable place and having the other person like moving their shield around in order to counter that. It would kind of make sense because then you at least have it so that the person is stuck in place almost. Like if they move too much, they're going to make themselves vulnerable. But you're able to approach for close quarters, but they don't do that.
Yeah, that's the thing is
you easily could.
You wouldn't keep shooting. You would walk up and you would be waiting there for them to pop out so you could hit them. Instead of the whole trope of, I'm going to walk up and shoot and shoot and shoot, and give them the opportunity to hop out and do something while I reload. You're literally handing them the opportunity to get the upper hand because you're giving them a reload. It's
I always
asinine.
took it as like an adjustment of strategy almost. It's almost like you're creating your own covering fire so that way you can move into melee range, which is where you'll be strongest. So you're keeping them pinned down, and then you're able to get in close. That's how I always took it when they did that in the Captain America movies.
But that's not like how Bucky worked in Winter Soldier. He would advance, and he wasn't just blindly shooting into the car. He was advancing, ready to shoot. Or if he was shooting, it was in a way that would eliminate their cover or somehow make it go away. It was just Winter Soldier did it way better than this did.
Yeah, it's just head and shoulders above the rest. You can't really get away from it.
Anyways, we're talking through all this. There's so many Easter eggs in this scene here. All the Battle of New York, the A here, a lot of the
Yeah, the A that was left on top of it. We saw the Loki scepter from the first Avengers and second Avengers movie.
a lot of just Chitauri tech floating around, right?
Yeah, lots of Chitauri tech. Bunch of the things that I watched where they broke it down, they're talking about, and these Chitauri handcuffs, and that's not what they were. They were Asgardian handcuffs. Designed to stop Loki. But everybody said they were Chitauri, and I went and like double checked, and it was the handcuffs that Loki was wearing. So
they would be the handguards like he had on at the end when Thor took him back to Asgard at the end of the film. Is that what we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of one of the things that bothers me about this movie. One of my
take your finger off the trigger
about it.
Sorry.
Similar to Thor. Well, actually, in this situation, she wouldn't take her finger off the trigger.
She would,
because she is ready to shoot all of them immediately.
No, but you still would. You still would, because the difference in time there is so minimal that you still would never, like, no professional would ever do it. I don't care how black ops you are.
I don't know about that. But that's your opinion. His costume, by the way, is like perfect.
Dime store
for the
Captain
character
America.
U.S. agent, as they call him.
Yeah.
It's perfect comic book adaptation. Like, this is one of the single best comics to reality costume adaptations I've ever seen.
Yeah, he does. He looks good.
He's such a wide head.
He looks so much like his dad. It's weird.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know,
White Russell,
it's the son of Kurt Russell.
Yes. It was so weird for me for Bill Pullman because, he probably did something else in between them that I'm not thinking of, but he literally played a character named Bob in Top Gun Maverick, and then this was his next big movie where he's also
which
Bob.
Pullman did you say?
Oh, it's he's Bill Pullman's son. Sorry, Lewis Pullman. I got his name wrong.
Lewis Pullman.
You know what? I'm gonna smack you through this microphone.
Go for it.
My very special observation of him is that he has the Tom Holland frog mouth.
Ah.
For those of you who don't know, there's a popular internet joke that said that Tom Holland always looked like he was hiding a frog in his mouth.
And so does this man.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell. He does have frog mouth.
Lewis.
Oh, Lewis Pullman?
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. My brain was like, that's what I said. No, it wasn't.
We do have like two sons of like two, obviously Bill Pullman's not quite as big as Kurt Russell was, but still like very respectably
Bill Pullman
big actor.
Bill Pullman has a spot in American movie knowledge, especially because of Independence Day and the speech that he gives at the end of Independence Day.
Oh yeah, and he definitely had a couple other rom-coms and a few other movies that were big, but but
Chris
Lewis
and I remember
Pullman
from this movie called While You Were Sleeping.
Yeah, that's where I first saw him.
Yeah.
And the show The Sinners.
I don't know that one.
It's a good show.
But Lewis Pullman,
very intense.
He's got such a good face, and I don't know if this is mean or not, but it's just he's got the perfect like non-threatening. You would never expect this man to be capable of disturbing your life other than just being there.
He has little boy face.
He really does.
And I feel like that stays consistent because later, even when he's supposed to look scary, I don't think he looks scary in his face.
There's one or two moments where I'm like, there it is. But for the most part, he's not scary, which is one of the reasons why people have been saying that Tom Holland should be James Bond, and I want to slap their eyeballs out of their face.
Like,
because I'm like, little boy face, squeaky voice should not be anybody like James Bond. They're just looting the body. They're like video game characters.
Okay, I know that, like, because the plot needs to happen is a thing, I totally accept that you would have everything in place to trap, what's her face? Phase girl
Ghost,
here.
yeah.
Ghost. I know these characters, really. Here, but they so conveniently, every time she could solve the problem, somebody's got a Sonic something in this movie. It's almost comical how conveniently they're there anytime she'd be able to solve the problem that they have.
Yeah,
and this is the one
really
place
like
it makes
her in this movie too. Like they underused her in Ant-Man and the Wasp. She was good. It's just that movie was very forgettable. But I really liked her in this movie, and I wanted her to have a bigger part and bigger moments, and they don't. Which is really unfortunate. She's a good presence. I think that she's a good actress. I like that she's attractive, but they don't like sexualize her. She's competent. And they just so underutilize her. And I know that they cut out some scenes that would have been really good in character exploring for her, and they don't do it. It makes me sad. And then we have the On Your Left thing, which is a clear nod to Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh, wait, that's what it was. That they left the switch for the sonic emitters in this room. I'm like, there was something where like they literally could turn off something important because it was in this room. And that's what it was.
But again, that's something you could write around very easily. You wouldn't. This is an incinerator, right? An industrial incinerator. You would want absolutely nothing that could possibly leak out of it, right? It needs to be solidly contained. So if you're going to set up a containment system, then it would need to be inside in order to function, because you only need it to function once. And then the incineration happens. It gets incinerated too, but so is the target. The thing that's dumb is that it's not hidden very well.
Yeah. I mean, it
makes sense that it's in the room, but it needed to be hidden a little better.
So this part is like an interesting thing that happens throughout the movie where they kind of have their flashbacks to their moments. And like this is Yelena's moment. And I feel like it's a nod to PTSD and having flashbacks in like those pivotal moments of trauma that happen.
And I would like to point out the fun little continuity that this actress is the same actress that they used in Black Widow for a young Yelena. And also, this other actress acting across from her, who very shortly meets an unfortunate end, is the cousin of actress Tilda Swinton.
Really?
Yeah. Played the Ancient One in Doctor Strange and has been in a number of other things.
Okay. So, Rissa, just how completely effed up is the Widow program?
I mean, completely.
Like, what would that actually do to people?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember a lot from it.
Okay.
This movie kind of refreshed my memory on a couple of things because they were Yelena's memories. But it's like a breeding ground for PTSD. Like, there's no doubt about that whatsoever.
Yeah, because the entire thing behind the Widow program was essentially that you kidnap young girls, you pit them against one another to take advantage of kind of that natural competition that happens, specifically tailored to girls instead of how you would pit the competitiveness of boys against one another, so that they become the very best at infiltration, murder, seduction, and then once they're fully approved, 3/4 of them are dead. They're designed to only last a few years, and then they would get killed off in one way or another, and you also sterilize them so that way they can seduce freely without any risk of children.
So, what I was curious about, specifically though, and I should have phrased this better, Rissa, was, I've studied a lot of special forces, and I was, close enough to it to see it in person for a couple of years of my life. And there's a real fine line between intense training and purposefully inducing PTSD to like get like what I would call like tier 1 guys, like the kind of soldiers that can do anything humanly possible. Mm-hmm. And if you're actually deliberately inducing like that level, I mean, this is obviously fictionalized and really pumped up for dramatic effect, but if you're inducing that level of PTSD, wouldn't it, really introduce a lot of inherent instability in your operatives?
Oh, definitely.
If you're trying to go for
Definitely.
like the best in the world type situation.
You would have to weed out a lot of people to get to a point where there was someone who could actually withstand that level of like torture, essentially, to where they would become a great operative from something that caused that much trauma, versus all of the people who would just result in just mental breakdowns.
But that's kind of the point of how evil the Widow program is. You get the girls who you think are going to be the best for that, and then you push them until you only have the ones that are resilient enough. Their career lasts like 10 years. Eventually, they will have a mental break, and then you get rid of them. But you're talking about the Russian doctrine of warfare,
Yeah.
which is not, let's see what we can do here. It's, let's just throw enough bodies at it until it works.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I mean, they never explicitly show you, at least in the films, just how many applicants like don't make it. Although, yeah, you can definitely assume, and I'm sure the comics had talked about it. How many, the attrition rate would have been insanely high. But yeah. Anyways, I really do appreciate how much character building they do in showing you where these people are and kind of just how they solve the problems to get out of here. How they let the team interactions kind of flush out as time goes on here. Like, I mean, it's the classic misfits come together, storyline, right? Okay, wouldn't if he had gotten like a little flash there because he touched what's his face, Bob?
Yeah, but he also didn't touch his skin. I know that that's one of the things that they were really careful of, is that there was little to no skin contact, and it wasn't all the time.
Yeah.
It usually comes in moments of stress and of like letting one's guard down, where that was a moment where you had people's like guard up, and also it's probably just a writing thing.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say, this film, like Avengers, and this film definitely tried to mirror several big things in Avengers, some of them better than others, but it did well, I feel like, letting the team, it didn't overly rush them kind of getting along. That's an oversimplified way of putting it. But,
okay.
Letting the team dynamics start to seem like they would make sense. If that makes sense?
Yes and no to me.
Hit me.
Because one of my big complaints about this movie is that, similar to Thor before it, it moves in too short amount of time. Thor spends a weekend on Earth and he's able to just turn into an entirely new person. This movie takes place over the course of a day and a half. That's it. And I get why they needed to do
The first Avengers was only, what, a day or two?
Yeah, about 2 days.
Yeah.
And I know, but that's also like, a movie like this, I want them to spend more time together. I want this to be a TV show, And I get it. Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, they don't spend a lot of time together before they solidify as a team. But I want there to be a side quest where they have to go get a MacGuffin that's in Las Vegas, and they have to go through like a casino together, and everything goes to hell. It's just, I want to see this group interact in a setting like that as they're moving into like, oh, then they go face the apocalypse in New York. But that's a me thing, and I know that we can't have that. That'd be a way too long movie, or it'd have to be a TV show, which would be inordinately expensive. But I'm just like,
This whole
love this
scene.
scene.
I love this.
That's one of the problems I have.
Goodness.
You
and
have
there's also
problems
like,
with
go ahead.
eating and having your arm in the dishwasher and.
I have problems wearing nice things because I'm a messy eater.
Oh, okay.
I recognize that I'm a messy eater.
I also like that there's a very real thing where like super competent people, when they're kind of just in their relaxed state, they're at home, they're not like, when they're not in their zone, like their purpose, they're actually kind of clumsy, even though they're incredibly competent at other physical activities. It's kind of an interesting thing that does happen with real people, which I find hilarious.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And I think with him in particular, it's kind of nice to see that he can be relaxed enough to be kind of like silly or make a mess or something like that, because he's gone through so much and so much PTSD and so much depression and all those things that they kind of work through a little bit in the TV show. But like the fact that he can just kind of have a relaxed evening and, just kind of mess up his shirt and whatever, I think is kind of a nice progression of the character.
Yeah. Well,
Now, I want
he
to
definitely
talk.
gets the benefit. I'll just say really fast. He definitely gets the benefit of one. He had, he worked through some stuff in Falcon Winter Soldier. He had all that rehab time in Wakanda off screen, and he did have the benefit of, to the best of our knowledge, growing up like in a good, stable childhood, right? Because he and Steve, growing up in the 30s and 40s, would have actually had like a solid foundation. And so it makes sense that
he
he
came from a
would have.
moderately wealthy family with as far as I know, a loving family.
Yeah. He would have had at least some foundation there to fall back on to work through his trauma, which he has plenty of.
I was going to say, that's a really high level to work through.
Dude, I love all this whole thing. The acknowledgement that everybody just is like, we all just punch and shoot, which I'm a Dungeons and Dragons person. We're video game people. We know about the necessity of like party dynamics and balanced parties, and this is a very unbalanced party, and that's kind of what I love about it. You have like different specialties, but they all just kind of shoot and punch.
Yeah.
Now, I did want to talk quickly about the character of Mel, because that character, the actress's name is Geraldine Viswanathan. I'm sorry, I can't get it. It's an Indian last name. It's really tough. She was originally going to be played by this one actress named Ayo Edilbiri. No, there's no L in that. Edibiri, who dropped out of the role in order to do the show The Bear, which I think was probably a better career choice because that show went on to become a huge hit. She's the main black actress in that.
Oh, that's the comedy, the famous comedy, right? The Golden Globes keeps
that's
calling
like
it
a dramedy. It's like a
no. It's a running joke that it keeps getting nominated as a comedy, and it's definitely not a comedy. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
It's
but she plays the character of Sydney in that, and
it's a running Dan Burrell joke also. So sorry.
Yeah, but the character Mal is based on a superhero, a shield agent by the name of Songbird. And that's kind of who she's supposed to be, but they probably won't make her an actual superhero shield agent because that'd be kind of stupid.
So the very first question when that solution was proposed to me, like, all right, we're back to back. We're doing, climbing up the tunnel, which I mean, like that's a friction thing. Like climbers do that all the time. That's a really, they're not back to back, but like
who's going it?
Climbers. Yeah. What do you do when you get to the door? Like there is like right away, the first question would be like, okay, that's great. We can climb. But how then did we get, like, do we open the door? Because as soon as one of us goes, this whole thing collapses. So you think one of them would have asked that question before they started climbing?
And I feel like there's a way around that for sure. Like a Black Widow, at the very least, we know would have some sort of like grappling hook. Like tie each other together, So that way, if you fall, Walker here could jump up and everybody would just kind of fall behind him and he'd be the one who'd be strong enough to keep everybody together.
Yeah. Okay. Now, correct me here, because again, I am not going to ever watch Falcon Winter Soldier again, unfortunately. No, that's fortunately. It was a bad show. Okay, we can talk about it. He has moments, but
he's great in that show.
He is great. But didn't that version of the Super Soldier Serum, wasn't that like kind of a lesser quality version?
Okay, it's not that. They do imply, especially in this movie, they do imply that there's different levels of super soldier serum.
Because there are moments where he seems as strong or even more than Steve was, and then other times where it's like, no, he's not even close. And Bucky's the same way. Like the power level is very inconsistent.
The power level is very inconsistent. I don't really pay attention to that, but it all goes back to the first Captain America movie. And Erskine's commentary on the serum doesn't change you, but it amplifies who you are. So he's imbalanced in his power and attitude.
I love the sneeze.
The sneeze is good. He's imbalanced in his power and attitude because he himself as a person is not balanced. Because the serum, takes what's good and makes it great. It takes what's bad and makes it evil.
But that was his serum. Like, is that all? Do all the serums do that?
I would assume so.
All right. The other thing about that scene, and it's a very funny scene. It's well shot, but there's just the part. I know this is a weird criticism for this kind of movie, but the physics of catching somebody who's like hanging on to a concrete wall by like one single spike, and you grab their leg and it jolts, but they're fine. And then there was like no physical recoil when she caught Bob by the leg with her grapple. Like, her arm didn't even move. Her arm was like concrete. There was no physics whatsoever when she caught him. The whole thing, again, is as funny as it was, and as much as I enjoy the sequence, it became like a Looney Tunes-esque sequence as far as physics go.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So this scene right here with him like looking down into that is supposed to represent like he was about to jump, and was supposed to represent the hyperbolic call of the void.
Mm-hmm.
Which again leans into the whole theme of mental health and void, and feeling like there's a void. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's not blatant, but it was a good little like
there's
written kind of moment of staring into the void, and the void stares back.
Well, that's Batman. So when you stared into the void, you blinked.
I think it's Freud. No,
in one of the DC animated films, there's a fantastic sequence with Batman and Owlman, and Batman is saying what the difference is, and there's a whole thing about the void and blinking, and why Batman is.
Oh, it was Nietzsche.
It's always the best and the coolest. Go Bears! This whole exchange is so good.
Yeah,
Shane's tire shop.
Would you say that Walker is a little bit of a narcissist as well? Same kind of thing.
I think that it presents that way, and I wonder if there's like more underneath that. Like, sometimes you can have depression and it presents as a really angry exterior and like a really narcissistic kind of attitude, but it stems from the feelings of inadequacy and things in depression. So with him, I think it could be a little bit more complicated.
You see, I thought that when I first watched this, my takeaway was that it was like, I thought that maybe he was doing kind of the military bravado over depression thing, and that it was like PTSD fueled depression.
Yeah, I think that would actually be a more accurate description of him versus narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah, because I was kind of wondering about that from your descriptions. Rissa and I have discussed this a lot, just in downtime of just like, because I didn't fully understand all the differences between things like narcissistic personality disorder, major depressive disorder, things like that.
And something that I was kind of going to obnoxiously explain, just in case it was interesting, is that there is a common misconception between bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and schizophrenia. And the reason I think it's important to clarify is because some people might say like, oh, Bob would have like schizophrenia, split mind. But the differences between those disorders are that often the misconception is that someone with bipolar is like changing throughout the day, like they're high and then they're low, they're up, then they're down, when that would be more likely to be borderline personality disorder versus bipolar, which is over a longer span of time. Like, you might be depressed for months and then have mania for a month and then be depressed for more months, right? And so the more accurate description of what he experiences throughout the movie is bipolar versus like borderline. And I know that like technically the movie spans over like a day and a half, but the symptoms and things like that are more consistent with bipolar disorder.
Yeah. And apparently they specifically like hired psychologists to look at the character and say, what would this guy actually have? And they went with bipolar disorder, because a lot of people don't realize that like blackouts and memory loss is actually a potential side effect of
Very
episodes
much
of
so.
mania.
You can even have psychosis during mania, which a lot of times when you have psychosis, you don't really remember anything that's happened.
And one of the reasons why I say mania is because bipolar disorder used to be known as manic depressive, because you would go through mania and times of mania, which is like high highs, and depressions.
Yes, and there are two kinds of bipolar disorder. There is one with mania, and there's one with hypomania, which is like a lesser version. And it tends to go undetected longer because people will just like mania. Mania is more like in this movie where there's a lot of impulsivity. You feel invincible, like it's really to an extreme, versus hypomania, which is just like you feel a lot better than you did when you were depressed.
Yeah.
Well, with Walker, and Bucky and Red Guardian, there's also the I mean, fictionalized obviously, but whatever the impact the serum would have on how their mind's working.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that
think
would definitely have an impact in whatever underlying issues they already had.
And I think that they take all three of those characters in this movie and kind of play how, like, the differences it will, the different ways that it would affect different people. And like Red Guardian, you had somebody who was vain and boisterous, and even though he does obviously have some deep-seated issues, he sits almost firmly in this camp of extreme overconfidence and almost like fantastic, like delusional, almost. Like, oh, imagine Red Guardian riding Sentry into battle, stuff like that. And then you have Bucky, who's like figured out how to be an actual balanced human being, and then you have Walker, who's pretending to be a balanced human being when he's not.
It's such an old gag, but it just works.
Yeah.
No.
Well, one of the details that I like here is that he's suddenly in one of these bad guy suits, and they don't point it out. They don't put like
Yeah, they do.
a lampshade on it. There's a naked dude on the floor.
Oh, I was about to say, they absolutely pointed out, because, yeah, there's, like, all these guys in tack gear and one guy in his underwear. So
Yeah, but they don't, like, dwell on it.
Yeah.
It's just there if you notice it, and I don't know, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
Mm.
Oh, man.
And it sets up the, classic Star Wars gag.
Oh, yeah. You gotta walk out disguised. Hey, at least they don't have a trench coat in this one.
Oh, my God.
With a child underneath
it. A good idea in like the actual plot, but the execution of how they decided to portray it on film was such garbage.
Yep.
And,
still wearing their. One thing that would be an instant giveaway, by the way, is any troop. Yeah, and this is true of when like they do the gag with firefighters and they do with these guys, that no soldier ever on the planet would leave their face mask on any longer than they had to. So any soldier who leaves it on is immediately suspicious. Like, why would you leave that thing on? They suck.
Yeah.
And that's like never pointed out. Like, or a firefighter leaving his full like oxygen on. Like my son, who's about a year and a half into that now, he's like, those things are so awful. You can't wait to take them off. As soon as possible, you take those things off.
I've been in full PPE a couple times, and it's
rough.
You actually do get used to it after a little while, but the moment you have even the slightest hint of oxygen back and like fresh air, having to go back into it is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Well, especially because then you're going back into the nice sweatiness. The sweatiness.
Yeah.
It's like soup.
I really like the design of her suit. I think that it's one of the best. I just think it looks good. I really like the helmet. I think it's subtle, but it's like I don't know, it's cool looking.
So we were talking about the speed of turns and stuff here. So Rissa, like, we've had a couple hours at the most go by here. Now, is this maybe that he suspected or had some like unconscious knowledge that he could do this, or that he actually had this turn of character this fast of being the sacrifice?
So actually what I think's happening here, and I was just thinking about it before you asked that question, is I think that because they've been hinted toward his depression already several times, him saying like, people would be better off without me, go ahead, all that kind of stuff. I personally think his like pull to be the sacrifice is that he doesn't value his life. And he's like, I can be valuable if I'm saving other people, if I'm doing something like that. but otherwise, like, what's the point? So I'm going to go out with a bang kind of thing. That's what I think is happening here.
You see, I always thought that given that he was showing hints towards some stuff, he knew that he has abilities, but he also knows that it's dangerous and unstable. He doesn't necessarily know how dangerous or unstable, but he knows that it's not good for him. And so he was kind of keeping it down low. I think that he knew he would survive, but he didn't necessarily know about the full extent of his abilities.
I don't. I mean, I agree to disagree. I don't think that he knew that he was going to survive. I think he was willing to let that happen.
Okay, I can see that.
I do love that he's the uncontrolled flying is a fun little detail. Because we're so used to Superman-esque, to see somebody just like be kind of freaking out about this is definitely amusing. And
even if you do have one of those kind of...
well, they've already established that he has an issue with heights, so him fainting here is just a great little detail.
Right? That is really funny.
He's coming back down.
The idea that people can see him coming down, though, and see him flying and things is
well, and
a little hard to believe, but, you know.
They also, like, very inconsistent with the wide shot there of, like, him going, like, off at a very steep angle, and then here he's, like, you know, coming right down on... You wouldn't hit with that much force.
I mean, I think it was supposed to be, like, a curve, like a parabolic...
Maybe. You also, too, like, unless he was actually physically flying, like, pushing himself to a higher speed, it's just complete BS how hard he hits there because the weight of a human body, maximum acceleration under gravity, you would leave a little dent. You would not explode the ground like that. Just saying.
Unless your body is saturated with energy in a kind of like superhuman way, right?
Yeah, but then you got like the Wakanda suit where you got to release that energy. I mean, if your body was saturated with energy, it might make you more dense, but you're still gonna. Gravity is a gravity. Bowling ball and a feather hit the ground at the same time. You know, I mean, physics don't just change unless you have something that's actively expelling that energy when you hit the ground, which has never been hinted at in this film so far. Just saying.
No, you're totally right, and that is something that bothered me as well. I think it was supposed to be just kind of
it's just
this idea that he's powerful, he's dense, he's big, he hits the ground and there's an explosion.
Yeah.
Now this is one of those things. We keep being brought back to this Ox Corporation, which was not present through like anything else before this. The OXE, and it was so strange. They just kind of came out of nowhere, and then here it is again. Or here it is. And they keep referencing it. It's this big evil corporation. And I kind of liked some of the theories on it, because some people thought that it was supposed to be like a continuation of Hydra. Because if you look at how it's spelled and you look at their logo and you turn it on its side, it looks kind of like an elongated version of the Hydra symbol with a head and tentacles.
Really? I thought about that.
A lot of people thought that it was supposed to be Oscorp, but they couldn't use the rights.
Yeah, it's still owned by Sony.
Yeah, stupid Sony. Yeah, I do like Walker being kind of useful here.
Yeah, well, it makes sense if he was a vet of Afghanistan and Iraq, he'd be familiar with a more arid climate and the ways to just
desert
deal
survival.
With it. Yep.
Dr. And he's just supposed to be. He was Captain America, so he's supposed to know how to survive in America. Discussion about Dr. Phil of all things. Like, I love this kind of stuff. I think that their banter, the chemistry was really good between the characters. Yeah. They do give a lot of time to Val, and I do appreciate that, even if I'm not a fan of the casting. Also, they used a real helicopter in this scene, which I thought was really cool. Like, that's all in camera.
The one thing, this movie... Okay, I'm going to briefly talk about the performance of this film. Because this film could have been, I think, very successful. I think most people liked it. Even the people who didn't love it acknowledged that it was definitely a step in the right direction. If this movie... And this movie could have easily, in any other part of history, this movie could have been shot for 120 million bucks, easy, and you could have done justice to all your ideas. The fact that this was a $200+ million movie, and that's what made it a very disappointing one, is a real tragedy, because this should have been a good $500-600 million. I forget what this did globally, but I think it was somewhere in that area. It would have been fine if it had been budgeted correctly, and you could have made this movie for that. You didn't need to spend what, just like Marvel got to the point where they were just blowing $200 million on everything, and this was a perfect example of like, do something smaller. You don't have any huge names to to pay here. You don't have sequences where you need guys doing insane Iron Man stuff. You could have done this responsibly.
There is a slight problem with that though. Florence Pugh is one of the most in-demand actresses in the world right now, and she cost $11 million for this movie.
Yeah, but that's still nothing compared to what RDJ costs. Even back when Iron Man 3 costs half what this movie cost, and that was at peak RDJ value.
Are you sure about that? Because this one was budgeted at $180 million. One of the main issues with this movie was its over-marketing.
Yeah.
Because its marketing cost so much. Like, this thing did almost $400 million, which, I mean, like, any movie makes that much, it should be a success, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there's plenty of examples of movies that are over budgeted that don't make, like Superman Returns. We did that recently. Made $400 million.
Yeah.
Big disappointment.
Iron Man 3
it was
$210 million.
Yeah, all right, it was a bad example. I'm sorry. But still, just
I think that it was a decent example. Don't get me wrong.
But what I mean is that this
movie should have been a success. I think that there were certain things that they could have changed in order to make it a success. I was going to talk about this at the end, but I think that it needed a better finale.
I don't think there's a thing you could have done. I maybe would disagree on this, but I don't think there's anything you could have done in this movie outside of throw some totally out of left field, inappropriate cameo in it to get people all hyped up on social media. Because when it comes down to it, these aren't characters people love. I mean, you don't have an Iron Man here. You don't have a Captain America here. You don't have, a guy like Chris Evans to come in and just be like and you don't have a character that everybody knows about, and half of the establishment of this story is on Disney Plus shows, and one of the worst attended Marvel films of all time in Black Widow because it's the middle of COVID. So it's just it was one of those things where like Marvel should have known that $400 or $500 million was great for this film. If this film had not been a Marvel film, it would have made $100 million. But because it was Marvel, it made 4 to 5, and if they had budgeted it appropriately, it would have been heralded as like this great step back. But because they gave it an Avengers budget, it's a big disappointment.
You see, I think that word of mouth does have a huge impact on how a movie actually performs. I think that one of the issues with this movie is that the climax of the movie is not exciting enough. It doesn't have a big moment where the team really comes together. I mean, it kind of does, but it's also kind of pathetic.
It is.
They needed a more action-heavy finale. They needed something to be a little bit more of like the team comes together to have a brawl. The big team coming together moment is them pushing over a big slab of concrete.
Yeah. Well, you're inherently limited.
If they had had a moment at the end that it was a legitimate, like, this is an incredible action sequence, in addition to the very heartfelt kind of fourth act that they've got with the whole, like, in the actual kind of trauma rooms or whatever they call it, then people would have sat there and gone, oh, it was so exciting, and it had this cool action in it, and it had that emotional gut punch of an ending.
Yeah.
But instead, they have kind of a action sequence, and then they go into the emotional climax of the movie.
Yeah. It would have helped, but I think that what you just described, if they had nailed that, might have added $100 million to the movie. Maybe. Because Marvel's just not there right now. And even Fantastic Four, which is a solid film, proved that again this summer. And Captain America, which is a worse film than this, I mean, it's funny how consistently, in that 400 to 500 they've been, and it's they just need to accept that and stop thinking that it's 6-7 years ago. Oh my gosh. And that's the thing is though, if they and Kevin Feige's acknowledged this, I'm not even saying anything controversial. He said out loud in multiple interviews, this is a big thing they've got to work on. But I'm glad they tried. What's his shield made out of, by the way? It's definitely not vibranium.
It doesn't say. You do see that there are impact scratches. Reading into it, maybe adamantium, given that they've introduced that in the Captain America. But it is also folded easily, so it might just be some sort of like titanium alloy, something strong and bouncy. It's just kind of not really established what it is,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not vibranium.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that this is their big victory.
and the music is really good there. It has that heroic theme that just kind of like peters out with
Yeah.
the fire. I love that.
I love that his limo has Florida plates on it too. It just really adds to the just like
The jank.
oh man.
But yeah, this is what you were talking about, right? With the Sonics on top.
I mean, and again, it's not crazy inappropriate that vehicles chasing these guys would have them, but it's just, again, it so conveniently just makes her not be able to do anything.
Yeah, I kind of wish that she would have popped out, kind of like Elena here, and done some shooting. It's very Saving Private Ryan,
Yeah.
you know, shooting at the tank.
Although, too, the rounds from these are Bushmasters going on here.
Yeah, 30 cal, right?
They would have ripped through that limo. Like it would have shredded that car. Like not even remotely realistic as far as what it would have done. But you get this cool shot of Bucky. Doesn't need no helmet.
Oh yeah, this is just Terminator 2.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could see.
He
like,
even does the shotgun flip later.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does the shotgun flip. But no, this is a great character kind of reintroduction.
Well, and again, here he's back in his element here. They play this as such a great. This is where he's the most comfortable. This is where this is his zone.
With the hair, do you get kind of Mission Impossible 2 vibes?
Oh yeah, he's definitely got a little bit of Cruise going on here.
Yeah,
That's
a little,
just his hair.
little bit of Tom Cruise, like especially right here with this thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because Rissa has never seen in Mission Impossible 2 when
You've
Tom
never
Cruise
seen
had that
MI2?
hair and the sunglasses and was
Oh, yeah.
doing the Kawasaki flips.
This is
I've
definitely
seen a lot of movies.
I mean, it isn't a lot, but that movie did it to a level not seen in the West for a while. Oh gosh.
But man, I love Bucky
love
in this scene.
Well, and the turn here where then he gets them and they're like, "Oh crap."
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh. I still think though that instead of hitting the back, it should have done the skip underneath and just gotten below, because then the physics would have been true to flip it. You would have had the explosion pushing down. It would have flipped the back over like that. That explosion where that hit just would have pushed the car forward and blown off, part of the rear wheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think about it before right now, but I am curious about the time in between when Bucky gathers them all up and ties them all up and what that would have looked like, because that would not have been an easy group of people to all just tie up.
Yeah.
And like, how did he transport them? Did he flip
Right.
the limo back over?
And just
Did he,
drive
or did he
the
just like
limo?
tie them all in a daisy train and drag them behind his
Right.
motorcycle?
I have
Yeah.
questions. I need answers.
It's definitely one of those like, just don't think about it too hard. It's just we're here, right? You just it's that whole cliche of you're in the middle of an impossible situation, you just do a little cut, and all of a sudden, hey, that was rough. Imagine when you just make a little glib comment and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask Rissa, what do you think of this like method of kind of seduction that she uses? Not like sexual seduction, but like
Right.
Some mommy.
I think it's really interesting, and it's almost like she's dressing to be like a therapist, like with the softer clothes and the like flowy and like very welcoming kind of thing, which is very different from her regular attire. But even the room that they're in has like a calming light to it, where it's not like white light, it's like yellow light, so it's like kind of like a mellow morning kind of thing. So like it's a very interesting setup for trying to make someone feel like comfortable
And the
against
wood
their will.
paneling.
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. And just like the way that she says things, like they're all out affirming him. It's tearing down his friends to make him feel isolated, and then setting herself up as the only pillar in his in his pantheon.
Right, but then at the same time trying to make him feel empowered too through like you're perfect, you're this, you're that.
Mhm.
Like trying to build him up in a very manipulative way.
Yeah, if it feels like one of those like manipulative sports parents that want to live vicariously through their children, so they like make sure that they're perfect at the sport, and then they turn out, oh, you don't want that distracting friend or girlfriend. You need to be doing this and playing this sport, and I'm the only one you can rely on.
Yeah, well, she's definitely wanting him to be, her weapon basically. Yeah, it's
the Sentry design is really good. It's over the top. It's goofy. It's supposed to be, but it's really good. But yeah, this scene is like her most believable acting. Almost, she looks her age, which is not something you probably want, especially in the character.
Yeah, this is what I was saying, that she feels, and to a certain degree was responsible for like letting people know where her dad was hiding, or this would this would cause some trauma. She's everybody starts right. That's like the real tragedy is that we all start from a similar baseline, and then from birth you get the combination right of whatever biology you come into the world with, but then the environment you have that just really can make or break you, right?
Yeah, the combination of nature and nurture.
Yeah.
One of the things that the director talked about apparently in writing this movie is that every single one of these characters, including her, including Mel, all essentially like all of them come from the single source of self-hatred. And how each one of them handles that in a different way, mentally and behaviorally.
You know what's weird too in this movie? I was gonna say for for Bob, he said. I mean, they showed it there. When he was torn up from being shot, he's got such like this gentle face, but he's actually in like crazy good shape for this movie.
Yeah. He kind of tried to hide it in the beginning. They didn't want to show off that he had this superhero physique, so it was all in body language and the baggy clothes.
Yeah. But when his shirt gets shot up on top of the mountain, you can see the guy's got abs.
Oh yeah, you can see it.
Oh yeah, he put the work in.
He trained. He said that he was doing like several miles of running and like 2.5 hours in the gym every day, and on a diet of like 4,000 calories a day.
Oof.
Did you know that he was actually a last-minute addition to the cast?
Weren't they originally going to have Glenn from Walking Dead, or what's his face?
Yep, Steven Yeun.
Yes, yeah. There was some kind of a...
He would have been an interesting choice.
He's a good actor.
I feel like this is a better choice because they had already changed a lot of the characters. Ghost was like a white dude in the comics. Taskmaster as well. Songbird was another redhead that swapped to something else. And so I feel like if they had like literally over half the cast being radically different in terms of race and look from their comic book counterpart, it would have been just a little bit too kind of like cringy. So I think that it was good that they kept him a little bit more close to what he appeared as in the comics.
So I love the detail that Walker and Guardian have like the rebar bent around them. I wish it was down lower because it's up so high they could easily pop it off in the position that it is. I know that their hands are tied behind them, but like I wish it was, it should be down like right at like their elbow. In the wide shot it is. That's weird. And then in this close shot, it's up higher. It's like moving as they when they shot this. Anyways, but I do like the detail that obviously he would have to restrain them with something a little more, substantial.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a weird little detail that I just noticed because it's so clearly an iPhone he's using there. Apple has a contract where their phones are only allowed to be shown used by heroes in movies.
Like, that actually gave away a massive twist in Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, because there was this whole question of, ooh, who's the bad guy? And all of the characters, except for that one, were using iPhones.
Yeah.
She happened to be using a Galaxy.
Yep.
And so everybody knew ahead of time that she was going to be the bad guy because Apple is a bunch of narcissists.
He's so
I like
good at
the
the
Bob
annoyed
joke.
look. I mean, I love Sebastian Stan's just slightly annoyed look.
He's
It's like the
He's got
tired
that.
dad look.
Oh yeah, he's got the furrowed brow, just a little head cocked. Just I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, you
Like,
for the glory.
I love his adoration of the Winter Soldier. Like,
Yeah.
the differences where they all know him from are really funny.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a trailer moment there, but it still works. I'm always a fan. So many times, moments pop in trailers and they kind of fall flat in film. And a lot of this movie's trailer moments also work well in the film. I appreciate that.
I agree. There's one of them that's like, I love it, but it's a little bit too thickly accented when it's Red Guardian. We already passed it,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just like,
The
you
Wheaties
can
box.
be the heroes on the Wheaties box.
Yeah.
And did you see any of the displays in the theaters where it was a giant Wheaties box?
I don't think I saw that one, though.
So in some of my theaters, there was a display that was for this movie that was all of them, and it was a giant Wheaties box. And it even had the nutritional facts on there, and it was stuff
So
like
excited.
self-loathing 40%, overconfidence this much percent, luck 0%, and ingredients were funny too, and it was a really good little fun display, and I thought it was really funny.
Okay, is it an interesting choice that somebody like her would have, for lack of better terms, kind of a softer assistant like this? Wouldn't she want just like a cutthroat, like somebody that's just as like into this as she is? Isn't it kind of odd that, like, going with your assistant realizes what a monster you really are and then betrays you type cliche?
There's that, but there's also the potential that she chose someone like that because they're easily manipulated, and so it's easier to it's easier to control someone who is like that because all you have to do is be good with your words, and she's very good with her words.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that scene was so tough for me because I didn't like her delivery. It fell into that, like, I feel like I'm in a parody now, in the way that she gave that speech. But the dialogue in that speech was excellent. This whole thing of like, oh, you grow up wanting to be a good guy, and because there's bad guys out there, and then you come to realize that there's a bad guy and a worse guy. And that's a philosophy that I actually subscribe to in a lot of areas of life. When you're talking about things like politics and war and whatnot, you're not gonna find good guy versus bad guy. You're usually gonna find bad guy versus worse guy. And it is a depressingly pragmatic way to look at things.
Oh yeah.
But there's truth to it, and I don't know, it grounded this villain for me, but I just didn't like her delivery of it.
Now they do a little bit. Oh, sorry. What you said is interesting. His eyes. They do a little CG work, right, to give his eyes that little bit of like that extra kind of halo effect inside of him.
Definitely,
Yeah, about to say either that, because I don't think that's context. I think they're adding a little bit. Okay, this scene. 45 long barrel. He's big.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a weird gun too. I had to I thought that it was just like
It looks like a Terran
what do you call it?
tacticalized 1911 is what it looked like, but I might
Yeah,
be wrong.
I thought it was just a regular 1911 that they had just kind of tacticaled up a little bit, but it's actually like a whole other thing. Yeah, it's a WE High Kappa 7, which I'm like, what the heck is that? What is a WE High Capacity 7? And it is part of the STI
Okay,
1911.
so it is STI.
2011.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. It is because the STI is Terran Tactical. So yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
it has
his
the high capacity,
Yeah.
the extra long barrel.
it's the one.
Um,
It's something that's taken me out of more than one film because he's become such the big, like Hollywood actor trainer ever since that big viral clip of Keanu 10 years ago. And his guns have gotten more and more placement in films, and he has such a distinct look. It just annoys me because they're not tactical guns. They're race guns. They're designed for competition.
yeah,
Okay, I do love the callback with the door.
yeah.
The first Avenger.
Also, something that just happened that I absolutely love is like solidifying Bucky's dad status when he's driving, and Yelena's like, "Are we there yet?" And he's like, "Oh, almost."
Yeah, that was good.
But yeah, I think that if they had taken time, like you get this really good scene of Ghost kind of kicking ass. If they had really taken the time to establish a fighting style that one could use her phasing abilities for, you could have such a cool scene. And she's just kind of a background character in here, and it's really a bummer. I genuinely think she was just one of the more interesting characters.
Well, and
And they didn't use her as much.
giving her a problem to solve that really she was uniquely able to solve. I mean, I know she got them, she opened the door and had that moment to come back, but yeah, they should have had them versus more than, a city coming apart as as a big action scene. And you could have done that in less than 10 minutes of film time. And just establish them a little, and that's where you would have had. I mean, if you had gotten you've got some really capable actors here, especially with stunt work. Sebastian Stan, he can do it. I know Kurt Russell's big into that stuff too. I'm sorry, Wyatt Russell. But you could have had a Winter Soldier level, big, massive, them versus a small army, and basically working their way through this building instead of the whole like, I just put the drywall up. Like, have a really cool inventive them working their way up this tower. And you could have gotten creative and had each one of them had a moment where they really got to shine in a specific situation, and had Ghost have a really good moment. I mean, you could have done it, and you would have had that big team, that a Daredevil-esque level, sequence that people would be talking about to this day, if you had put the time in and done that. And it would have really helped, I think, with the kind of thing you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I personally think that, like, after that, there's this moment when, like, Sentry goes rogue, and she still wants to get rid of the Thunderbolts. There should have been this whole thing where she's just like, crap, I can't rely on Sentry anymore. Then she calls in her dudes, and they're going to go get them. And she actually wants some collateral damage so that they can blame it on the Thunderbolts. So that puts civilians in danger. And they'd be able to, like, go up against a little army of red shirts on the way out, essentially. I think it could have been really cool. But that's a me thing.
They really hit the cheese button perfectly with his costume here.
Yeah.
It's a cool name. Oh, man.
Because Red Guardian loves the cheese, right? So he's impressed. Everybody else is like, what the heck is this guy? But this is, like, the perfect modernization of his costume from the comics.
It's also like a differentiation between his like dark depressed side and his manic side. If you're looking at it from like the mental health perspective of it, where he's like invincible and impulsive and like just the quote unquote stronger and like more out there version of himself.
Are you saying that his scrubs being blue was thematic of him being depressed because they were blue?
No, that's not what I'm saying. And weren't they green?
It was lit weird. I mean, it's one of those hard things because he was usually being shown in a very yellowish lighted room, and so the telling blue or green and that kind of lighting is very difficult sometimes.
Maybe
I have more cones. It was green.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was blue. The pen is blue. But I really, I have mixed feelings about this tracking shot coming up here. I should say oneer. It's not really a tracking shot. It's really good, but it's also such kind of like choppy CG. And they have some like really good fighting callbacks to the previous fighting styles of like Captain America, Bucky, Black Widow. It's really good in that way, but I don't know. How do you feel about this whole fight sequence there, Brian?
It's so I feel bad because I remember seeing it in theaters. I remember it being interesting, but ultimately watching a bunch of very low-powered people attack somebody who's invulnerable, I nearly always find that boring.
So maybe Justice League at the Memorial and all that.
That one was interesting though because they had the moment with the Flash, like this, and just is like, all right, like that was bad CG. His knife didn't even hit. It was like and maybe he's projecting a field.
Oh no, that was supposed to be a force field.
All right, whatever. But it's just so the memorial scene, and very specifically the memorial scene in the Snyder Cut, worked because Henry Cavill was selling it really well, and you had that moment with the Flash, and you had the Ben Affleck was actually trying to act when they shot that version of it.
Yeah,
there was a way more emotional stakes. This is just kind of I don't know. This is well done technically, but I'm bored.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. I felt like I get why they're doing this scene in order to really set up the stakes, set up his power level and stuff. But I'm like, think of all the money that they spent on that sequence for us to just kind of be bored when they could have set up a better little action sequence at the end. Oh, also, in theaters at this moment, did you think they were going to kill Bucky?
No, I never believed they were going to kill Bucky.
I thought they were going to kill him. But like, I feel like this is the only scene that they really needed. Have him take a minute to take apart the other ones. Fine. This is the only sequence that they really needed to show his power level, in my opinion.
Well, you've said everything you need to say right here.
You know?
Yeah.
I do love that she grabs his arm.
Yeah, that was very nice.
I mean, I appreciate that he, even right then, was genuinely trying to like not permanently injure them. He was obviously he could have killed them all right there if he'd wanted to, no problem. And they did sell that well. I almost feel like too he should have been, maybe should have, not the right word, because I don't know what he should be doing, but I feel like he would have been more excited to like a discovery of look what I can do, and like against you guys look what I can do, and kind of a little bit more of a Megamind moment with what's his face, the kid who Megamind gives the powers to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also had this feeling like I felt like his mania should have been a little bit more like electric. I felt like he should have had that moment where he's not really hesitating anymore, and he has that moment where you can kind of see the change in him, and you're just like, oh no, I don't know. I think it would have been. I think he should have been scarier. I guess a little bit less of the Tom Holland, and a little bit more.
Well, he appeared bored. Once you're talking, like he appeared bored. Like, oh, this is almost annoying, and that was the wrong. It should have been a combination of, I'm trying to not hurt you, and then also like, but look at what I can do. Like it should have been a combination of he should have been scared of hurting them because he doesn't want to be that kind of person, but also like, oh my gosh, these people who were amazing are like, I can do anything I want. Like some combination of those two emotions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a little bit unhinged, just a sprinkle of like I'm on the edge of losing it.
This is a brutal takedown. Like, just like, oh, you're a piece of trash. So does your family. Jesus, like, she just both barrels him.
And I noticed that the only one that she doesn't like destroy is Bucky. She leaves him alone.
Yeah. I actually think, because I know that they added more of him in there, I think he was CG'd into that scene.
Bucky?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, there's a couple scenes where the way that the interactions are, you're like, that's probably just a stunt double, or he's separate from the group in some way. Like when he's in the front with Alexi, um, where they're able to kind of keep him separate because they wrote a bigger part for him midway through production.
Hmm.
And so there's certain scenes when I think he was added in um later. But like right here, he's still you get this kind of shivering hesitation. I don't like that acting choice. I don't like that directorial choice. I think that he should have been this almost entirely. But even this, I think that he should have had a little bit more glee. He's too subtle, I guess.
I mean, if you're going with the he's bipolar disorder personified, there's not a lot of glee there. There's not a lot of like happiness to that existence, and like they kind of key into him not being very happy with his existence.
I guess you're right. I guess I just want a little bit more of a cartoonish villain. And because I know that one of the things that they talked about is that both Wyatt Russell and Lewis Pullman both deal with anxiety and depression. It's almost like probably having a famous parent might cause some emotional problems. But both of them keyed into those experiences and talked about it. I love the lines here.
Oh, yeah.
The art lines there, like with the shadows and the reflections, really very voidy as it's going towards him.
They really enjoy almost destroying New York.
I hate New York. Like they use it in so many comic book movies. It's bleh.
I feel like this is a good scene right here. I feel like the acting here is really solid on both sides.
This is a really good scene. Apparently, it wasn't even in the like original draft. Like they had a moment where they all kind of came together, but this was the two actors who actually went to the director and were like, "We know that you don't want any type of over reliance on the other movies, but there needs to be a moment where they address Natasha, where they need to address
Oh,
the
yeah.
issues that they had from the previous movie, and a moment where she opens up, and she wouldn't open up to the other people, but she might open up to him,
Yeah.
and."
Well, and
The
two.
result was this, and I think it's like one of the best scenes in the movie because this describes the life of a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people with PTSD from war, a lot of people who just live and exist. Like the whole, you know, it's not necessarily going back thinking about all the terrible things that I've done and all the regrets, but like they look at their phone, they go home, they just go through the motions and go home and look at their phone, and it builds this horrible cycle of self-hatred.
Well, in the beginning, when she's kind of narrating and she's eventually like talking to the security guard, she's describing depression to a T, and here she's doing the same thing, like the thinking about all the horrible things that I've done, that's rumination. So she's kind of personifying depression in that way, especially with the substance use and things like that.
So, Rissa, is there
And
a difference? Really fast. Sorry, because I'm genuinely curious with this. Is there a difference in how you would process depression? Because when she says all the terrible things that she has, like she's done some horrifically bad, like she has all that actual past versus somebody who it's mostly in their head. You know what I mean? Versus a very
Yeah.
real, like you have done horrible things, and it's not just in your head, and like how would that change how it comes out, or
Well,
is it
in
about the
some
same
ways
because it's go ahead, sorry.
Right, no, you're good. And a lot of times what would probably happen is that her symptoms would be more explained by PTSD, right? Because those are things that actually happened versus like just straight rumination where you're like thinking like, oh no, I said something awkward and now I'm going to think about it for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that a lot of times if they overlap, depression symptoms can be better accounted for by PTSD, and that would be more likely in her situation.
Yeah. Because I always,
You know.
even though they're both serious, and I don't mean this to minimize or maximize either way, but somebody who's dealing with the the remnant, the all the leftovers and the consequences of very real life events versus somebody who's they just got lost in their head and they're just sucked into their own something that they built up mentally that's just become a pit that they're stuck in, so to speak, versus somebody who's dealing with very real history and events that they can't, that they remember. And, it's just like different, they manifest similarly, but they kind of come from different places in a way. Man.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I get caught up in this sequence we got. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, I think it also comes down to like guilt and shame and the difference between the two. Shame is like, I'm a bad person. Guilt is I did something bad. And I think that in the difference between the two things you're describing, she might be experiencing more like shame, like I'm a bad person, versus the guilt of maybe someone with depression who would be like, I did a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that the intensity of it could be a lot stronger for her. Yeah. Even though people with depression will often feel things in a strong way as if it were something terrible that they've actually done. Yeah,
and that's as I was like saying it out loud. I'm like, yeah, but I know mentally to the person who's depressed, it is just as real as if it was real. So it's not as different as you would think. Yeah, I do enjoy the way that this transitions. Like the initial terror here, they do sell this really well. Of just that it's not too fast. Where with the first time they do the effect, where the guy's shooting at him from the top of the tower before the helicopter gets there, and just that very like the design that they got for him when he's void is so just like terrifying. It reminds me of the video game Limbo. Did you ever play that, Zach?
I've seen it played.
Okay.
I didn't personally play it.
Very like just the shadows with just the white eye. It's just it's haunting and strange. Here's a callback, obviously, to Avengers, but the sound effect and like the timing they got of turning the guy into shadow, like the lack of gore, it almost makes it more terrifying. That it's just so like nothing, just a shadow of what you were. Very reminiscent of the. It's from Nagasaki and
Hiroshima. Yeah,
Hiroshima.
Sorry, Hiroshima.
Hiroshima. Yeah,
it's corrected. But no, it was directly. It was directly inspired by Nuclear Shadows.
Yeah,
where the force of the explosion happens so fast that the physical body is disintegrated and the ash left over essentially and the neutrons coming off of the thing will create a shadow like very similar to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like
this is the big team up finale.
Team up moment, like it's a giant slab. Oh, what if there's a little girl on the other side of it?
Squish. Thinking like they didn't check the other side.
Yeah.
Like this right here is a great little shot of the five of them. Fantastic. Yeah. Great. It could have been done.
But they could have easily had that have just been, because they had just finished kind of giving Bucky his big moment. The Guardian flipped up Yelena and she did the car thing. Like they just finished giving everybody these that was good, like these little moments, and they could have given.
We need to interrupt. I need to interrupt because this scene was flabbergasting.
Like there was a collective gasp in the theater when that happened.
Just the little girl gets turned to shadow. Oh God! Like I gasped at that sequence. That is probably if you don't already know the ending of the movie, that was the darkest moment in all the Marvel movies. Like, damn.
Yeah.
But I feel like Ghost would have just been able to grab Walker and just ghosted him through that thing.
Well, that's the thing is, they should have had Walker hold it long enough for the lady to escape, and then have Ghost rescue Walker or something, and then just have your team up be something else, just anything else.
Like have him it probably would have been too expensive, but imagine if you could have gotten a moment where they were literally like lifting the remains of one of the helicopters off
See,
of somebody else.
I think
you
it's a
know?
big mistake to have it be physical, because, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way to the non-super soldiers of this group, but the contribution of Yelena and Ghost physically to moving something compared to the other three guys, because they're all super soldier serum guys, is
Yeah.
nothing. And it's like, have your big team up thing be something that doesn't involve physical strength. Have it be something that involves where you needed everybody. It needed to need everybody. And
Like
it was
working
just,
together to rescue somebody. Maybe there's
Yeah.
been a big hole in the ground and there's like a couple of kids at the bottom or a family at the bottom
Yeah.
and they help them up one by one. And, and they all like crawl out of the hole together and you get that kind of glory shot of them standing like we just did something good
yeah.
instead of slab.
Yeah, it was very weirdly anticlimactic. It does
Yeah.
feel like they either ran out of money or forgot until the last minute. Like, oh, we really need like a shot with all you guys together. All right,
Yeah.
this is all we got. Well, we got left. This is all the time we got left and
Yeah.
budget we got left.
Because then you're transported into this sequence,
Yeah.
which is the kind of this is like the fourth act, you know. 4-act movies are a little bit hard to pin down, but this feels very much like kind of an extra little fourth act. I really like how this is done. I also think that they could have provided a kind of extra action sequence in here. They kind of have one with the chicken, but I wanted it to be a little bit more grandiose, a little bit more like impressive. Like, oh yes, this is the action sequence I want these superheroes in. That's kind of what's missing from the second half of this movie.
Yeah.
Because the last really exciting sequence we had was them versus the convoy, and half of them were useless during that entire thing.
Yeah.
That was just like a Bucky glory moment.
You got to do the scissor kick. It's like a requirement with a widow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Tilda Swinton's cousin, Alexa Swinton. Tilda Swinton, who looks weirdly like...
This always makes me think, by the way, of Narnia. I just like can't help but think of like, this is a really twisted version of Narnia.
I always thought of Oz. Like with the trees.
Oh,
Eerie
I think it's just a girl in the snow. Just always makes me think of Lucy and Tumnus.
I dig it, I guess.
Okay, I forget. Are these the correct weapons? Are these Soviet handguns they're putting together? They better be.
Yeah, they're Makarovs.
Oh, good. Okay, sorry, I hadn't seen a close up in a minute there. I was like, all right, I really hope they got that detail right. They're not freaking Glocks.
Oh yeah, no, that's, I mean, just glimpsing the slide. That's a Makarov PM.
Oh yeah.
The bullet. I like this detail of her like trying to shield her past self from having to witness this because it messed her up so much. I thought it was great little detail.
Yeah, it's tricky to pull off these type of kind of surreal scenes where where you're doing the camera twists and you're doing the kind of the big reveal. It's like big reveal after big reveal, but you're trying to make it kind of trippy. Like is this a dream or is this a memory or is this kind of a little bit of mixture? And I feel like overall this is one of the better examples because there's definitely been some poor ones over the years of these type of kind of surreal sequences, and this is definitely one of the better ones in my opinion.
You know how I feel about surreal sequences and dream
You're not
sequences.
a fan.
I am not a fan. I don't like them. I think they're often badly done. I think most of the time they're kind of lazy in how they're executed because they're often meaningless for the sake of meaninglessness. Like they're trying to be trippy and mind-bendy, so they make things as opaque as possible. This one is not opaque. There's a very specific narrative reason that it's been building up towards why she's experiencing and seeing these particular things. She's seeing these traumatic memories that destroyed her. She's, she has to go through a mirror in order to get to this point, and it's herself where she's like depressed on the floor and force feeds herself alcohol in order to kind of cope. Like there has been enough build up, and it's explainable enough. It's relatable enough that you understand why this is happening. It's not just being weird just to be like, we need a trippy sequence that gives us the opaque symbolism that we want to have, being such high-minded and brilliant screenwriters and movie makers that we are.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, I kind of wanted to note that they do kind of allude to substance use twice in this movie, with Yelena's drinking and with the meth when Bob is the sign-holding chicken. Both of which are very realistic examples of what happens with these mental disorders, especially with the more significant ones like bipolar, schizophrenia, schizoaffective. It's very common to have comorbidity between the two, where they're either self-medicating or they're using it in addition to medication to try to numb the symptoms because the symptoms are so difficult to deal with.
What does that mean, co-medicated?
Comorbidity?
Oh, comorbidity, thank you.
Comorbidity means you have a dual diagnosis of a mental disorder and a substance use disorder.
Okay.
I love the toaster in the background, the upside down toaster that he was like working on or something. A little set detail. Yeah. I thought it was funny.
Well, it's one of those things that really shows, like, if you look at what he's playing with, it's a Rubik's Cube. He's got tools around him and this electronics. This is from when he was a kid, he was a child. He was a smart kid. He wanted to do things. He wanted to play with these things. This is a traumatic memory for him because he could hear and experience things through the floor. So this is a trauma that he would know.
But it's a trauma.
He's able to experience it from a safe place.
Yeah, but to say, like, it's... Yeah, I was just about to say, this would be a mixture, right? This would be both, like, a bad memory, but also, like, this would be kind of... This is like his, to borrow from DC, his little fortress of solitude up here, is what I would imagine, that this was kind of his hideaway.
I would also like it noted that throughout the movie, Walker has referred to Bob as Bobby, and every single time he does that, Bob has been like, don't call me that, or it gives him a dirty look or something like that. He doesn't like being called Bobby. And then they flash down to his dad down there being all abusive, or stepdad or whatever it is. And his whatever father figure that was is calling him Bobby. He doesn't want to be called Bobby because that's what he was called by his abuser. And that's what Walker does to him.
His abuser and his mother's abuser.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Would she be in a position to be able to give him advice and help him out of this? Like, realistically?
I mean, I would say so, just because of everything that she's been through. And I mean, in the beginning, earlier in the movie, she's giving him advice like, just shove it down, and it's like kind of a joke. And then here, the more realistic advice of like, don't shove it down, you actually have to deal with it.
But you don't have to deal with it alone, because this whole movie has been her experiencing these things and not being alone.
Right. And then like it progresses from there to being like, and you won't be alone.
Yeah. Is this part of the time that, in a way, though, the fact that we have less than 24 hours would probably happen between the last time she gave advice and this, that it's a little compressed as far as timeline goes?
Yeah. Like
that's fair to say.
That is an annoyance of mine, but it's something I am willing to overlook, because you just kind of... You can't really right away like, oh, they've been spending days together, because you would need to actually spend those days with them.
Well, that's where I feel like, not that it was magically done in Hawkeye, but that they almost had to redo her kind of finding peace that she found, that great scene she had with Clint. And it's like, well, we can't count on the fact people have seen Hawkeye, so we kind of have to retread that again. And then, but because they're retreading that with her, and then having her be a big part of helping him, it feels very, very compressed in a time sense.
Yes and no, because I loved Hawkeye. I've seen it a couple times now. And I thought that it actually flowed a little bit well, because what Hawkeye did is it did have that really good moment between her and Clint. But what that also did was it took away her mission. It took away her purpose. So now we're picking up here. She still has those same problems, she learned a lesson from that, but at the same time, she's now living a life that is without aim and without purpose. She's just a mercenary, and she's bored, and she's alone.
Yeah.
Where previous to that, she had a focus. That's something I myself have experienced. This, like, the aimlessness that once you're no longer have a goal, once you no longer have that specific vision, then suddenly it's so hard to be a self-starter in any way. It's so hard to just do anything. And it sucks.
And something kind of rewinding slightly, kind of to your point, Brian, about her giving the advice. I wonder if it would have been more poignant for her to give that advice after all of the friends had showed up and helped, and she kind of had that example of like, and then we all work on this together and we're not alone, versus her having that epiphany and then everyone showing up and helping.
Interesting. I like that thought for sure.
But yeah,
Okay.
like, this is great.
And this, I mean, I don't know if you guys are Breaking Bad fans, but this to me is very much a little bit of a nod to Breaking Bad.
Is it?
Oh yeah, there was a character in Breaking Bad who was a a meth head chicken sign spinner who was just a fantastic little flavor character, if that makes sense for the show. Like, not a major character, but just there for flavor, and was really well done. And
So,
go ahead.
a little thing I wanted to note, something that was shot that they didn't use was 3 different scenes in which they go through Alexei, Bucky, and Ghost's their own trauma rooms. And little moments where you get to see the things that they've battled and they've dealt with. I don't know if it was necessarily during this sequence or just other times throughout the movie, but they cut it for time and pacing. And I'm so sad because that's what I wanted to see through this whole thing. And then just like an extra memory with a little bit more violence to it, to put it bluntly, like more excitement, which wouldn't be necessary if they'd had like a better action sequence before the Mindscape that time.
Could you have restructured?
Could have added something in there.
Could you have restructured this film to have actually made dealing with Void be almost the second act, and then the big kind of team? It's us versus
No, I don't think you could have. I think that you really needed to
like,
take the time to establish Bob's relationship with them, because if he only spent like the first 20 minutes of the movie with them, just doing one or two little things, there's no impact. But instead, he spends like the first 40 minutes of the movie with them.
Yeah.
You really establish the relationship, especially between him and Yelena, and it's too important. And then his kind of falling under the sway and showing the true power of Sentry. I don't think you could pace this movie any better and be able to have even half or 1/4 of the emotional impact that this ending has.
Yeah.
But
I think it's just
I also just
after all this,
there was just a little bit more meat to the ending, a little bit more threat, like something that shows them as a team together, where you just say, "Hell yeah, that's cool."
Yeah,
it doesn't have a "hell yeah, that's cool" moment in the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
except for the chicken.
Yeah, I do like this sequence though. Just the idea that fighting is the opposite. Excuse me, sorry.
Which I actually will often disagree with. I think that there's a naivety to the worldview that things can all be solved through peace and nonviolence and hugging it out.
That's not what this is going for, though. This is an inner conflict where we're talking about here, and in that context, I love it. If we were trying to do like some kind of, hey, if we just all put down our guns, everything would be perfect. Like, that's not how human beings work. But as far as inner conflict goes, I'm sure Rissa, you can speak to this way better than I can.
Yeah, I like
the theme here a lot from a personal level.
Yeah, like the more you shove down, the more you punch down, the problems, the worse it gets for your brain. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and
'Cause
the,
I like
way they
this
the way they
symbolism, like,
visualize
the more he's
this,
punching in it, the more he's destroying it.
Yeah.
And I like that you have Bucky who's able to kind of instigate it, like he knows that this isn't the way to go,
Hmm.
because he'd be the one who'd be able to tell that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is going back to a point that I made like before, because you made the point of would she be good at giving the advice? I feel like Bucky, while not in the same position of being like the friendly mentor, would have been the best person to give that advice because he's been through it more than the others have successfully.
Yeah.
but yeah, and they
Okay.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask the score in this, that like heavy duty kind of techno bass line, almost like synthesizer bass line. It sounds like another movie's soundtrack, and I cannot put my finger on which one it is. And it's been bugging the crap out of me since I rewatched this. But that's neither here nor there.
So here we do literally get that
The group hug.
they solve this problem by hugging it out.
Right?
And it's beautiful.
It was the friends you made along the way.
I mean, this is like the very definition of like trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So there's your
there's
your group shot right there.
Yeah, this is a great group shot.
Bucky seems so like
I
wincing there
do
for a
like-
second. Like he was like had his clenched face on like a second or two after everybody else did. That's weird.
He's old. He's in pain.
He's like, I'm sore. Oh,
I do
man.
really like that ending, though, that like final moment and resolution. I think that was great. I think that is the proper end of the movie. The need to support one another, like that is a really good and powerful message for it. And of course, they brought the little girl back because they can't be that dark. But does that also mean that that pilot in the helicopter was brought back? Was he brought back midair?
Well, that's
Was
the
he,
one
like-
thing. When the blip was undone, the amount of people who died that day would have been like, you don't think about that, but that would have been
See, okay, but at the same time, you also have the Hulk, who was instigating the snap. He's very smart. I feel like
he would have used the power to.
he would have added it to the calculation of, I'm not bringing people back in the middle of the air. I'm putting them on the ground somewhere. Something like that.
But like you would have, yeah. I mean, potentially going through. I suppose the Infinity Stones are powerful enough. You could just kind of throw like a blanket, and nobody dies. So any little adjustments that need to happen, just do it automatically, because the billion or so people you would have to make those calculations for, as far as like they were in a car, they were in a plane, they were in a train, they were underwater, they were, fill in the blank.
It's not like you can just bring everybody back to the same spot, because it's 5 years later. The Earth is in an entirely different position. The solar system's in an entirely different position. You have to take all kinds of cosmic drift.
Oh yeah. That's, so I'm sure there was some kind of root command there that made it work.
So
man.
what do you think of this
I
Brian?
don't like it.
It makes me so mad.
Wait, they had already established the press was coming. They know that they can't do anything because, this is the only way that she can save herself from them.
I don't mind her attempting this. This fits into her perfectly. But the fact that they just kind of roll with it and well, now we actually control you, because one, I don't think Bucky would be that naive to think that kind of an arrangement could last for more than a day. And the fact that how much time goes between here and the end credit sequence? It's months.
13 months or something like that.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way you would sustain this relationship that long. I mean, even with all the jokes throughout the credits of the press clippings and the headlines and stuff that they do, I feel like this is great for a moment where she's trying to kind of salvage this. But I would have been happier if they had just been no, we're not gonna play your game, and one of them would have taken a hit, or all of them would have taken a hit to basically take her down here. I think would have some way to do that. I really, I don't know. I do not
I
like the
liked
whole
it.
new Avengers thing. I find it annoying and unrealistic, and the fact that obviously the world doesn't fully embrace it here. That's what the whole point of these credits are.
Yeah,
But
that's just it. These credits kind of made it so there's just like I liked it because of the credits acknowledging that a stunt like this wouldn't necessarily work. And but this is something that a woman like her would try and do.
I
And
don't
so
think that
I
that Bucky would have gone along with this. He
why not?
specifically,
This is exactly what he wanted. He hated
not
being
like
a
this.
senator. He
No,
was
but
bored.
he was, but his unless I'm forgetting something really
I love
big.
this. I love him riding the
The
taco.
I actually hate the fact that he leaves his shield like that, or that doesn't. He like keeps that one for just promotional, but has a real one for actually fighting. Anyways, the
I see. I like that because that seems like something that would really kind of happen, in my opinion. Like you're
Why?
sitting here when you no, it's image, it's branding,
now
and that's what a
you
character
don't.
like Valentina would
No,
be all
here
about:
he's
is image and branding and publicity.
yeah, but you wouldn't deeply compromise your ability to be effective as a soldier for brand. That's asinine.
Well, he's not. He
is.
has the. It shows
Fighting
him
with
using like another shield, like in the promotional images. That's all like round and stuff, but he still
Yeah.
keeps the taco
Oh
shield
no,
because it's his trademark.
keeping it for like press appearances. But I mean, I just if they tried to infer whatsoever that he actually used it like on purpose to going out and fight with, it'd just be stupid.
Yeah.
But also too,
No, I agree with that.
I
agree with
I
that.
don't see his character going along with that. Like oh yeah, this like joke of me being kind of just taken out by Bob so easily is like something that I'm going to kind of lean into. He doesn't have a personality who that would lend itself to that, in my opinion.
But I think that they all kind of do. This is their chance to do something better. This is their chance to be something bigger and have the influence and the image that they want. And maybe it'll help him get his family back. And so he's going to lean into, I am an Avenger, so I need to act like an Avenger. What does acting like an Avenger look like? That's wearing a beret, having a trademark, playing the part. It's a little bit more pageantry in this version of the Avengers that you see at the end credits.
Yeah, but
And I believe that.
Yeah.
It's almost a little bit boys-ish. The Boys, the show, which I despise, but it has some interesting little things on it. From somebody who's thinking about it like in a marketing perspective, which is what Valentina would definitely be doing with how much she talks about optics, I actually was just like, okay, this is funny.
Yeah.
But that's just me. You want it to be pure.
I do. It bugs me. I don't think they would have continued to work with her. They know that she's just a manipulative, evil person, and the strong personalities of, most of these people. I mean, I could totally see David Harbour going along with it. Just for the record, he's the one guy that I'm like, yep. He'd be like, sign me up. I'll do whatever because I love the spotlight. But the idea that Bucky doesn't make a real attempt to go and make things work with Sam, that there's not a real attempt to be legitimate, that if they were like, yeah, but we're considered the joke, we're considered the knockoff, and the fact that they would just like stick with it, that they would keep rolling with it for over a year.
Why wouldn't they?
Because it's not real, because it's not what they actually want, because the whole thing would just be a joke.
I don't know. I disagree. I think that it fits well, in my opinion. Like, I think that it makes for together. This is a team that, like, this creates something for all of them that they kind of professionally and emotionally need. And so they're going to keep it together. They acknowledge the Sam relationship here in the end credit scene. Which, man, there's so much that happens in this end credit scene because it's the longest end credit scene in all of the MCU. It's over 2.5 minutes long. Because I remember sitting in the movie theater at this point, pissed. Because I'm like, there was no coming down from all that. There was no afterward. I hate it when movies just end right after the big
Well, this is Predator.
It bugs the crap out of me. I need some downtime. Descent. Show us what they're doing afterwards, especially after something like New Avengers, right? The credits helped show kind of like, okay, they're leaning into this, they're giving it a shot, but I wanted more. So the fact that they were able to have this ending was, I really liked that it was showing kind of how their lives have recentered. They're made up, right? They've changed their hairstyles. They're cleaner. They're wearing kind of more ridiculous clothes. There's this air of, like I said, pageantry about it, which is what they would kind of have to be, because they're not just the superheroes. They're the brand.
But they've never. I think the other thing, the reason why I disagree is that we never saw that with the original Avengers team. We never saw that was part of their thing. There's the opening of Age of Ultron where they're going after, and Shield has gone bye in the meantime. So there's no established history that is what's expected of an Avengers team. Well, in this universe. It wouldn't
necessarily be expected of that Avengers team, because that was something that they were building themselves. This is an artificial Avengers being built in a more cynical post-Endgame world by a politician in the form of Valentina.
Yeah.
So this would be an Avengers team that half of the whole thing about it would be optics and branding, because they need people to latch onto it somehow. They need people to pay attention to it, love it, adore it, invest in it, and thus that it's actually part of the point of the story that these are now the Walmart brand Avengers. And I think that that's actually going to be a plot point in the upcoming
I have no doubt.
Avengers Doomsday film.
Yeah, I have no doubt that
great setup.
Yeah, I have no doubt the conflict there with it just. Okay, we don't need a cheap rehash of Civil War of two Avenger teams. I'm using air quotes here on radio. I get what you're saying. I just disagree with it. I don't like it. It doesn't do anything for me. It just makes me annoyed, and it makes me feel like there's a weird left turn in my opinion of the kind of decision making that Bucky would do and that Yelena would do. They're not the kind of people that enjoy being pawns. Bucky's annoyed by it. He didn't like being a politician, and the idea of like I'm gonna trade that. But
they're going to be the ones who are able.
They have to constantly. They have to constantly look out for freaking Dreyfus over there. I can't even remember her character's name. Sorry,
Valentina. But
they would never get to actually.
The thing is that they have leverage against her, so that they have some control.
That's exhausting to have to maintain that constantly. To never get to truly just be a hero. To have to constantly be worried about.
He was a congressman. That was what he was used to. Yeah. It is exhausting, but it's part of the job.
He would have rather gone rogue. He would have totally just gone off and just done his own thing than be part of this dog and pony show.
I don't think so. I
disagree.
No. I think that you're ignoring all the character development that he went through like everything since Civil War.
No, I think that he wants to have purpose again, but not like this. This would be way too much of a compromise.
No, I don't think so. I think that this fits quite well with the character development. In fact, I think that this is where he would go. This would be his chance to be like, I can do something like what Steve did. I have some leverage over the person financing it, and maybe I can actually build something with this gang of losers. And this would be him moving into the dad part of his life. He was the best friend, then he was the rebel uncle, and now he's moving into dad mode.
If they had, the one thing that would make me be willing to go along with what you're saying is if they had established firmly that somehow they had very quickly been able to get rid of what's-her-face.
We don't know that yet. But now we're in the post-credit scene, and I like, you have this discussion about him and Sam. You have the very blatant wig. Look at that wig. It's glorious. And the beret.
This was the dialogue right here, though, where it makes it sound like this is the shield you have, like this is your shield, Like he never fixed it. That just bugs me. Yeah, that wig is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I don't like Buggy's uniform.
Bucky's uniform? Yeah, Bucky's uniform
too platey.
seems a little odd. I think, again, he was added fairly late in production. I don't think they had time to build him a really good suit.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was kind of rushed and a little bit like aftermarket.
Yeah, it looks like they painted a ceramic plate and just slapped it on a tack vest.
Yeah, like the little rehash of the star on his shoulder is pretty good.
Yeah.
I dig that.
That's kind of cool.
This thing. Oh God, it's so cringy, but in a way that I'm like, that fits for the character and how cringe it is. Yeah, it just the Avengers with the Z. I love the little branding logos on it. It reminds me of that moment from Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, where Johnny Storm tried to get sponsored branding on the Fantastic Four suits, like NASCAR. Yeah, I think that if you gave them, I think that if you had more time with them, like if it was a TV show, we'd be able to buy it a little bit more, that they're all able to stick together and they've fallen into these roles. I am not going to deny that it feels rushed, but I really like it that they went this direction. I like the idea of these former villain idiot morons being shoved together to have to kind of be the new team in the spotlight, led by Bucky. It's just, I loved it. I thought that it was a great decision. I thought that it did fit with where their characters were going through this whole movie. But that's my opinion, man.
No, and that's fine. I think the other big thing would be, if you want to keep them as a team, that's fine. But having the whole other Avengers team, are we the real Avengers? I don't. That's just the other thing I don't like. I think that if you had somehow made it where they were a different team that wasn't trying to be the Avengers, it would have made it way less annoying in my mind.
That doesn't annoy me. I think that I really like that setup of being like, okay, that's a conflict I can get behind, because you kind of saw the beginning of, despite my problems with the movie, which are numerous, you saw Sam Wilson building his own little team.
Well,
in
they
Captain
talked
America
about
4.
him wanting to. He never actually did anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, it ends the movie with that kind of like unanswered question of if he's going to build the new Avengers.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give a firm answer. But the idea of these two guys having... I want another movie before Doomsday, I guess. That is a little bit more like
I fully
Avengers
think,
teams dealing with their crap.
I think the MCU is going to pull their version of BVS and Justice League with Doomsday. I think it's going to be way too much, way too fast, banking totally on people just filling in their own gaps with nostalgia. And, oh, look at that guy and that guy. And the story is going to feel crazy rushed, and the stakes are going to feel very just artificial. I'm really worried. Very worried about
Very worried
Avengers
as well, but I'm just
Doomsday.
trying to be optimistic.
I mean, this is like...
I'm not actually optimistic in myself.
I'm looking forward to it, because there's a lot of names in there that I like. There's a lot of... But again, like, Marvel's... They're counting on me doing that work based on a history that sometimes they had a part of and sometimes they had nothing to do with. So, anyway.
So we've discussed all this, and we have discussed how we would fix it.
Sorry.
What
We've
are
just
like
been ranting
two
here.
things? What are two major changes that you would make to this movie that you think would have made it a stronger movie?
I think I already just stated that. I would have changed the whole ending. I'm just kidding. No, this is 2 hours and 2 minutes long, or 7 minutes, or it's a little over 2 hours.
2 hours and 8 minutes long.
8 minutes. I think this is a movie that if you had made it more, and this is where I would have leaned into it being a little more scrappy, a little less CG-ish. I would have, shot this movie like it was a down and dirty kind of action film, almost like a buddy comedy, a little bit more. They already got a lot of that. They had all the right characters for it. Would have stretched this out to about 2.5 hours. would have made it had a much larger. You already alluded to this a few times, and I agree with you. Stretched out the middle, given them more development together, had a lot more emphasis, and you can do this for the cheap. You can do crazy great stunt sequences with actors and stuntmen who love that kind of stuff, where you can just have some great sequences where you're showing not only wow moments that everybody's gonna talk about when they leave the theater, but also build character together and have little, you can pair them up in interesting ways and kind of mix and match and have little moments and them getting to know each other and having moments where they don't trust them, but then they kind of have a little moment and it's like, okay, maybe I had an assumption about you that was wrong, and kind of build that out better. And had the I would have had the finale. I have this idea stuck in my head of them all fighting their way up to the top of Avengers Tower, and you could have had all kinds of Easter eggs along the way, along with some really interesting sequences in stairwells and going through different security systems, and the idea that like Sentry wasn't, she wasn't confident that Sentry would actually be ready, and she's trying to like stall them, like keep them down, and she's kind of desperately trying to like get Sentry ready to stop them. And you could have built a lot of tension there. You could have had some great action sequences there. And then when you do finally get Sentry, because it was rushed, you could have had something with a little more energy to that last sequence where he's really conflicted, but also because he is still Bob. He doesn't want to hurt these guys, but he's also like awakened to this power and this new like sense of self-identity, however that psychologically manifests itself, but like, have this real conflict that plays out in his face and his actions more, versus him just being like the bored god who mortal men are trying to hurt him and it's amusing. It's I think that I'm painting with really broad strokes here, but I think that a lot of that is a 2.5 hour film when it's paced correctly does not feel like 2.5 hours. I know I've said in many of our recordings I miss the old hour-and-a-half action film, and when you're doing a traditional action film that's not ensemble based, you can do that. Or if you're going to kill most of the ensemble, like in Predator, within the first 2/3 of the film, you can get away with that also. But this movie could have really benefited from going backwards a little bit and looking for its tone and the way it was filmed. You could have kept it practical, kept it cheaper.
I don't know what you're talking about with the CG thing. This has more practical effects than almost any other Marvel movie.
But they were going for their big stuff. That they wanted to have, a lot of the shadow stuff and the helicopters and the big sequence with him at the end you were talking about.
Oh yeah, like the takedown sequence. That is the part that annoys me as well. Yeah. But it just, I don't know. I'm
not saying it's overly CG, but again, I did not see $200 million here. Not even close.
Yeah, that's one of the things as well. I would keep things a little bit simpler in terms of changes. I actually really liked this movie. Every time I see it, I like it a little bit more. But at the end, I can't help feeling disappointed in the final kind of action sequences. I want a more exciting, kind of cooler ending, and I just wanted I wanted a little bit more thrill of the ending. I wanted a little bit more of that, and I wanted more of Ghost. I think that her and Bucky needed just a little bit more in this movie. I think they could have extended it by 10 or 15 minutes, and I get that would add on like probably another $20 million, but those are kind of the changes that I want to see.
Yeah. I think overall, that
Rissa, what's your kind of like final thoughts on how they depict mental health in this movie? Do you think this is something that's actually going to like speak to people? I mean, I've already seen some things online where it kind of has, but where do you kind of rate this in your own mind when it comes to movies that try and address mental health?
So it definitely ranks higher than most of the movies that I've seen that address mental health. It's a simplistic kind of view of it, but they tackle some pretty hard stuff, and I think that that's worth noting in the movie that, isn't necessarily about mental health. It really does tackle a lot. So, I don't know. I would give it like a good 7 or 8 out of 10.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, in my personal ranking, I think that this belongs in kind of the upper middle of the Marvel movies for me, because it just, or like very middle.
Okay. I would agree with that.
Good flick.
Yeah. No, this is, I think that this is easily one of the best post-Endgame films. I know that's grading on quite the curve there. But yeah, it's like this, and like I said, as much as Fantastic Four did not set the box office on fire, unfortunately, I liked Fantastic Four quite a bit, and I liked
Yeah,
this
there's
quite a
Fantastic
bit
Four,
also.
Shang-Chi,
Yeah,
and Spider-Man,
yeah.
No Way Home.
I mean, compared to, I think it was way better than Brave New World. I think it was way better than Quantum Mania.
Way better than Green World.
And way better than Black Widow. It's definitely
Better than the Eternals.
Yeah, the Eternals had some good moments, but this was
Again, we'll get there eventually. I have many things to say about the Eternals. I am one of those who thinks that it is better than most people give it credit for, but we'll talk about that eventually.
Yeah. The fact that, do we have any other, right? The next Marvel film is Doomsday, right?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
No, wait. Wait, yeah, maybe. I think it is Doomsday, or maybe Spider-Man. It's Doomsday.
Yeah, if we get anything, it's going to be a solo Spider-Man film.
Well, they're filming that right now, the solo Spider-Man film.
Okay, so Doomsday, because Doomsday is next fall, right? It's like 2026, like fall or winter of 26.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, it's the fact that we're already there is like yeah. No, I liked this movie a lot. I think this is one of those films where I could nitpick it to death, and even more than I did in this podcast, but the parts that I enjoyed, which is almost entirely character stuff, and the little exchanges that they got, and just having some fun with the action sequences they did. Almost everything in the vault I enjoyed. There's, again, a few nitpicks about this, the tropes, but the character stuff was great. I still am pissed that, as much as I didn't like Taskmaster's depiction either, I thought it was just it's a cheap way to create weight. I always hate she's not popular or he's not popular. Let's just kill him off and let's use it as a way to establish, oh, look at that. There are stakes now. It's like, get out of here with that. It's like second grade writing. It bothers me. You should have just got rid of him if you were going to do that.
I'd already forgotten about Taskmaster.
I know, but that's the thing. It just bothers me that's what they went with. But I enjoyed that. Pretty much everything, the whole limbo sequence was fun, even if the physics got wrong. And then Bucky talking to him, the whole sequence where he has them all tied up and they're all talking. I liked all that. There's a lot in this movie that I liked very much. So I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. Yeah, I completely agree. But
all right.
I think that's all I've got to say on this one for now.
We'll revisit Phase 2 next year, but then it'll be a while before we get back to this part of Marvel. But we're looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Rissa,
Good night,
for coming
everybody.
on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, she is wonderful.
All right.
There's doors and corners, kid. If you don't clear the room, if you don't come in slow,